Namaste, it's Jasmine Clemente. Today I have a really important message, and it's because before we get to the point of no return, there are things we can do to prevent certain situations from really exploding and getting out of hand, basically. So, everyone knows that we're sort of inching towards a civil war. And before that happens, where people are bombarding your house, and basically with guns, probably bloodshed. I know that sounds violent, but and we may think it's far fetched, like no one would come into our home, right? But for several years, we have seen this bubbling and bubbling and getting worse and worse and worse. It has been a slow climb. It hasn't been like an overnight situation where one bad thing happens and now everyone is, explosive, overly emotional and upset, which it's completely fine and understandable to be upset, right? Because we're all human beings, we're all connected, and we can feel each other's pain and each other's joy. It's a domino effect. One person does something, it affects another person. So it's completely valid to have these feelings, but nonetheless, they've been bubbling and they've been getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse, right? So instead of de escalating, it's kind of been getting worse throughout the years. And now, it can happen where a civil war can happen, if not this year, but next year or 5 years from now. But it can happen, and we'll look back and say, how could we have prevented it? So, one of the things that I want to say is, you know, protect your peace, right? But what does it mean to protect your peace? Now we can write about it, we can sing about it, we can take a bubble bath, we can light candles and meditate and do all those things. Sure. And they're important because, so I'm going to confess something, okay? I love apocalyptic films. I love watching them. I watch all of them, you name it. I am a little bit of a zombie fanatic. So, but with that being said, I actually do learn a lot from these films. Now, they are fiction, but real human beings wrote the script, right? And there are a lot of things in these films that are very real. And some of them are not. They're exaggerated, they're fake, they're made up, but some of it is real, right? So you take what you can from these films. What I like to say is, does art imitate life or does life imitate art? It's both are the same, I feel, right? Because as within, so without. So it's a human being creating the art. And so we watch these films. And when I watch these films about natural disaster or, famine, outbreak, disease, zombie apocalypse, Armageddon, but these films where basically there is chaos in society, the number one thing is that people will run to safety. They are all looking for a safe haven. But that safe haven is not just a place to rest, to take a shower, and to get food and medical supplies, and to basically protect yourself from the zombies outside, or the bad people, right? It's not just that, although that's the primary dominant reason that you're seeking shelter, is to get away from harm. But while they're there, the other thing is their mental health, their peace of mind. It's so important because what happens is, and you watch this not only in these films, but even in documentaries of things that already have gone wrong in the past. But the ones who the mental health suffers, they're the first to go. Sometimes they just go and commit suicide. They just will willingly open the door and go back out into the wilderness and say, just kill me, right? Because they feel like there's nothing to live for. They're so afraid, or they cause chaos within the sanctuary, within the place where everyone is trying to keep shelter and be safe. There's someone who's loud, who's arguing, who's really upset. They go crazy, and then they cause more stress to come and find them. And then they have to leave the sanctuary that they found because somebody was very, very abruptive and aggressive, and couldn't, hold it together, and then attracted more stress and drama to them. So the mental health is usually the first thing to go. And with that being said, that's understandable that people are afraid, right? Who wouldn't be? You're afraid, you're uncertain, stability has been taken from you. Maybe people you love died or got lost and you don't know where they are. And that's you know, uh, could really do a number on you, especially if it's your child that has gone missing. So mental health is understandable for that to be the first to go. But mental health is also the number one thing you need to survive. Mental health. Now, before things get that crazy, where God forbid we are in a civil war, right now, today, if you're watching this, most likely we're not in a civil war. Are things bad? Yes, we see it on TV, on the news, we hear it on podcasts, just like you are right now. Our friends and families are talking about it. We know what's happening, but it's not that bad yet. You can go home, lock the door, cook a meal, order from DoorDash, you can watch Netflix, you can do whatever you want, right? It hasn't spilled into your private home yet. Here's the thing though, because so many people are talking about it, this thing that has started as a fight, like I said, it's been years and years that it's been bubbling. This fight is getting bigger and bigger. And now what happens between two people is now becoming, now the families are getting involved, the culture, the friends, the neighborhood, the state that you live in. Now it's brewing and the storm is getting bigger and bigger until it becomes a superstorm. That superstorm eventually is going to cast an entire shadow, right, across the whole country, because if it's going to expand and expand and expand. As it expands, that's when it turns into a civil war where it is at the point of no return. And now you are at a place where you're not watching Netflix, you're not taking a bubble bath, you're not lighting candles to meditate, because you're running for your life. And it's not, some foreign, stranger that you've never met, who, a stranger is a stranger, they don't know you, who may be angry with you. It could be your own family. It could literally be your next door neighbor. It could be your coworker. It could be someone who you were best friends with. It could be your sister or your brother. It could be people that, because they are, voting for the other side, or they don't agree with you and they're like, this is war. They might just turn on you, right? So then you don't know who to trust, because it's so divided that it's not only divided within, you know, one state versus another state, or one party versus another party, but it's literally within your own family, within your own household, division everywhere, and you don't know who to trust. So before it gets to that point, right, is there something we can do to prevent it? Absolutely, of course there is, right? But this is like a personal choice that everyone has to make. And I'm not talking about voting. That to me is, you know, regardless of which way you vote, at least I feel that what has already been put into motion is already happening. So it doesn't even matter at this point, who you vote for, whether you vote blue or whether you vote red, right? There has been a destruction taking place. Um, I don't really, hopefully, if I'm positive, hopefully things will get better. But I kind of feel like, and I've been saying this for a while, I've been saying this for years actually, since a couple of years, when I saw it, when it was bad, but I said, that's it, it's just going to keep getting worse. And even if it gets better, and it gets better for like 1 year, it's still going to go get bad again. And if it gets good for a couple of months, it's never going to be the same, right? It's just going to keep. I kind of felt that way. So I kind of was always, I always felt personally like, whichever side wins whenever there's an election, I'm like, I don't really think things are ever going to really go back to the way they were. Not that it was perfect back then, but I kind of already felt this decline in the air, this energy of, because there was just too much division between people. And people are really the core of a country. It's people, regardless of what team you're on, it's people. And if there's that much division, and it doesn't matter who started it, it's not like, well, it's this person's fault, or it's that person's fault, or it's, because that party or that party did this, or because that president said this or that president said that. It doesn't matter which president did what. All of that at this point, I mean, because no one's perfect, we can find, honestly, if you're really being clear headed and you take your emotions out of it, we can truly find pros and cons on both sides. And we all know that. Now it may become, well, which side has more pros and which side has less cons? Which is the lesser evil, basically, right? So we can have that argument too, or that debate. But the point is, both sides have their pros and have their cons. And so, whichever side someone voted for, depending on which side they resonate with most with, I don't view any of these people as my enemy. I don't care which side you voted for. You're not my enemy. You're a human being. We're human beings. So no one is my enemy, regardless of, even if you were to draw a gun out on me in the future, God forbid, I hope not, you're not my enemy. People do what they do because they believe in that moment that it's the right thing to do. And then they think of the greater good of the whole, like, I don't want to do this, but I have to. People will do some ugly things when they feel like they have to, but it's because it has built up to that moment. If things didn't build up to that moment, they probably wouldn't be in a position where they're feeling like, now I have to do this, right? So these fires, if you will, they could be blown out when they're little sparks before they turn into a big inferno and basically burn down the whole system, basically. People, basically. And I'm not talking about a system in technological terms, computers and numbers and social security numbers and, those laws and protocols and things like that. I mean, people, before we burn down people. So that's what I mean. So what do we do to protect our peace? Well, what I want to say here is, you're not obligated to have to engage in conversations that you don't want to. And I know that there are people saying that you have to. They're saying, if you don't talk, then you're part of the problem. Obviously, if you see a little child being abused, you see a parent beating the crap out of a kid, and it's abuse. Yeah, you should say something, right? If nobody says anything and that parent keeps on abusing that kid every week, because they think that they can, because people are like, yeah, beat his ass. Yeah, hit him. He deserves it. Discipline your child. And that kid is crying bloody murder. And the parent is not finding different ways to connect with the child, right? To have a beautiful relationship and raise them with love and patience, games, maybe spending time with your kid more, but they're more like just really hardcore, right? And nobody says anything, they'll keep on abusing that kid. And then that kid grows up and the cycle continues, right? And then they become violent too, or they suppress their emotions, or they become really, maybe even develop a mental health disorder, right? The kid can grow up and end up having, they can develop bipolar depression, severe depression. They can, their physical body can take a hit. Maybe they don't want to eat correctly because they're depressed, or maybe they eat too much and become obese because they stuff their food down. There's so many different things. They could even become suicidal. There's so many things that happen that, yes, if you keep quiet, it will get worse. So I understand the logic behind, if you stay quiet, then you're part of the problem. But I think as adults, we also, and this is a fact, we have to choose our battles wisely. And it's a delicate dance of knowing when to say something and when not to, right? So you got to be smart about it. So, for example, like, let's say you want to go in there and just, rescue someone from being abused, whether it's a kid or a woman or whatever, right? If you don't do it the right way, you could end up being killed, right? Because you jumped in at the wrong time, and now that person killed you. But if you play it cool, maybe film it or something, maybe call the cops, maybe report it, get your documents in order, right? There's things you can do instead of just jumping in right away and now you're affected. So we do have to choose our battles wisely, know when to jump in, when not to, or when to get someone else and say, hey, this is too big for me. I can't handle this, but I see something that's happening and it's wrong. But can you, do something, right? So I think this whole thing of it becoming a civil war is becoming so bad because people are just jumping in when they probably shouldn't. They're jumping in, becoming super emotional, supercharged, and they're just having fights and arguments inside of homes and dinners and parties, and the workplace and at school and even in spiritual temples. They're just having these, and they're not conversations. They're supposed to be conversations, but they're not. They become these heated, aggressive arguments that become abusive. It's not a two-way conversation. It's not comfortable, and people are not really listening. They're kind of screaming over each other. um, and so now, when there is a civil war, God forbid, I keep saying that and I hope there's not, but if that happens one day, we have to look and say, well, how did it get this bad? Well, if you keep forcing people and pushing them to have to get involved because you're like, well, you have to say something, and if you don't, well, you're being quiet, so you're not. It's abusive, to be honest, to get into someone's face or to intimidate them and force them to get involved in a political conversation that maybe they don't want to get into at that moment, or maybe even ever, right? So my message to you is to protect your peace, because again, if things do get out of hand, people are going to be looking for a safe haven. They're going to be looking for not just a house to escape to where they're calm and they're safe, and no one is coming to um, kill them, basically, or destroy them. It's not just about seeking shelter from the harm. But again, mental health is very important. And before that day happens, you want to protect your mental health now while you still can, right? So if you want to laugh and enjoy life, go to stand-up comedy shows, if you want to travel the world, if you want to, create projects, whether it's films or music or, fashion or whatever it is that you're doing, you can continue to live an inspired, beautiful life. And you don't have to get sucked in to political conversations if you don't want to. I know a lot of people push others to do it, and they'll even threaten, um, like cancel culture. They'll threaten to destroy your business or your name or your reputation, say, don't buy from that person anymore, don't collaborate with that person anymore, don't unsubscribe, all of these things. And you might feel, right, like you have to like get involved, but you don't have to. You don't. And you don't have to be afraid of, losing clients or gaining clients, or losing followers or gaining followers, and all these things. Life really is about protecting your peace of mind and your mental health. There is nothing more important than being able to stand on your own 2 feet and be anchored into your stability, your spiritual stability, your core, your spiritual core, feeling strong and having that backbone, and being like a lighthouse that is steady in the midst of the storm, right? And the storms pass. They pass. Even if a civil war was to come, that would pass too, because we had one already, right? And it passed. We don't want them to happen, but they do pass. But whatever happens, whether it's good or bad, however the seasons change, it's so important if you can anchor into your core. So like, let's say you're a tree and there is a storm, and the storm is blowing and the wind and all these things. If you look at palm trees, for example, a palm tree, they're like curvy. They're a little curve, and then they have their leaves out. They're not straight up. They're like curvy. And the reason why palm trees are curved up like that is because they withstand a lot of hurricanes, tropical hurricanes. So those storms come and those winds are super strong, and it bends the bark. It does, but the bark doesn't break. It's still rooted in the same place. And after that storm leaves, the palm tree is still beautiful. It is still part of a gorgeous landscape, of a gorgeous land that did not get destroyed. And it still is luminous. The leaves are still, exchanging the oxygen coming in and out of the leaves. It's still blowing in the wind. It's still, part of the whole aesthetic of a beautiful tropical vibe. And so you want to kind of imagine yourself like that, like a palm tree in a sense, right? But just this core, that your inner lights cannot be dimmed. It cannot be blown away or intimidated, right? Like, it's okay to protect your peace, because again, when things get bad, and they do, they they have their peaks and valleys and stuff. When things have a peak and they can get bad, if you're that person that people remember was very peaceful, they may actually look for you. They may actually say, okay, I need to feel good. Like, yeah, I may be hungry and I need to eat, and I may need to take a shower, and I may need to sleep, and I need a bed, and all these, essential needs, right, for survival. But they're going to want to feel good. They're going to want to be like, I don't want to cry anymore. I don't want to be up at night. I can't sleep, not because I don't have a bed, but because my mind is racing, right? I'm stressed out. I can't find this person or that person. The phones are down, whatever it is. People are gonna, that peace of mind is so valuable. It's so valuable just to remember what it is to laugh, to tell a joke, to find humor in any situation. So so it's okay if you don't want to get dragged into these conversations. If people try to make you feel bad, like, oh, how is it that you're able to party right now? Oh, how is it that you're able to get on a plane and travel? How is it that you're, just focused on your business and you're not even, acknowledging what's going on in the news? Would you be in avoidance or something? Spiritual bypassing. People may say things to you to make you feel as though you have to get involved, because you just have to, right? But you don't have to do anything that someone else tells you to, right? Your peace of mind is very valuable, and their peace of mind is valuable too. So even those people that are kind of guilt tripping you and telling you that you should get involved, you don't have to lecture them or anything, but they should want to be happy and feel good. And if they don't and they want to get involved, that's totally fine. Everyone serves a different purpose. Some people are meant to get involved in these things, and that's their purpose, and they feel aligned when they do that. They feel like they were born to do that, born to speak up, born to protest, born to, you know sound the alarm and be that rooster, if you will, that just kind of like screams at the top of their lungs and get everyone's attention. That's fine if that's what they want to do. That's their purpose. But your purpose might be to be that quiet, lighthouse, that peace, that sanctuary, that place that people are like, okay, I need to rest. And I don't mean just sleep, but I mean I need to rest my mind. I need to rest my voice. I need to stop speaking. I need to feel good. I need to smile. I need to remember what I'm fighting for in the first place. I need to remember that no matter how far I go in fighting, that I don't forget what a good life was like, because every day you're fighting and fighting and fighting, but you have to remember what it is to celebrate, right? And just feel good, and to wear makeup and look pretty and go out. There's nothing wrong with that. So if you want to be that person who is joyful and you're feeling good and you're minding your own business, and maybe you're writing, and that's what I do, right? I write books, I write blogs, and I write about things that matter to me. And if that's something you want to do, you're a creative and you're like, I just want to create, and maybe you don't want to create something that's about a revolution. Maybe you just want to create something that's fun or romantic or, cool or whatever. It doesn't have to be related to what's happening in the times. It could be a period piece about the past. It could be futuristic about the future. Whatever it is, though, you find your core, protect your peace, and create, documents, write, draw, paint, build, but definitely create and protect your frequency, protect your peace of mind. Because I'm telling you, people are going to, if they don't do it now, people are going to say, I want to feel good. I want to feel good. Where can I go to feel good? And if there's no spas at the time, they're just gonna. Where can I feel good? It's gonna be people that feel good, people who feel like sunshine. They're going to want to be around certain people that remind them that life is a gift, and that we're supposed to enjoy it, and we don't have to be stressed out all the time. And not to get involved in everyone else's storm. To pick your own battles wisely. Pick your own battles wisely. Yeah. So that's my message today. I hope that it resonated with someone today. Feel free to leave comments, share. And that's it. All right. Protect your peace. So until next time, namaste.